Hey, what's going on, everyone? Mike here in the BFH garage. Today I'm doing a tool review. That tool is going to be the Astro XL Rivet Nut Drill Adapter. And the kit that I'm using is actually called the ADN38. I'll post a picture right here. Now, for those of you that aren't familiar with what a rivet nut is, a lot of people call them riv nuts. And it's this little thing right here. It's threaded on the inside. They come in various sizes and they're designed to be used in place of a standard nut. There's sometimes you can't get to a restricted space. You can't get your finger back there, or you can't get a wrench back there to place the nut where it needs to go. Rib nuts are a great alternative for this. On my TG over there, I am working on doing some corner armor and building new sliders, and I will need to place a few of these rib nuts on the areas that I can't get a nut from in behind. Now, if you're wondering how this thing works, take a look at this clip right here. So as you see, this rivet nut, when it's placed inside and you use a tool to collapse it, it does exactly that. It collapses, holds it in place. Now, there's several different kinds of tools to set these rib nuts. You have a traditional two-handled tool that you put your rib nut on the end of it, you put it in the hole, and then you got to squeeze it together to set that. The problem with that is it's really awkward to use, and you're moving until you can get it started. And there's a chance that you can get that rib nut offset just a little bit as you're trying to set it. And when you go to look at the finished product, it can be less than desired results. The thing I like about this new Astro drill adapter is that I can just hold the tool right here in my hand, pull the trigger on my drill, and it collapses straight every time. So I made up this little example piece of steel here. It's about the thickness of the sheet metal on my Jeep. Drilled a bunch of holes. I'll show you now how to use this thing, how these rib nuts work, and I'm going to give you my overall opinion of this Astro XL rivet nut drill adapter. Okay, here's our tool. Along with the tool, you can buy things off Amazon or whatever, and you're going to get different versions of these nutserts. Bought a little kit here. I think this was $10. Comes with kind of a variation of different size rib nuts. Or you can just buy a big bag like I did here, where you have 100 of the rib nuts of whatever size you're looking for, and you can buy them a little bit more in bulk like that. One thing you need to take into consideration is that the rib nuts that came in this little $9.99 box compared to these, the ones of the same size anyway, the 3/8 by 16ths, if you look at the head here, you can see how one's thicker than the other. And if you don't want a gap between whatever it is you're attaching, you want to make sure that you get the thinner head, which is on this side over here. Because remember, the pinching comes from the back side. So the front side holds it in place, and as you put the bolt in there, it's going to pinch it and hold it in place. So just keep that in mind when you are starting to use these. Make sure that it has the correct flange on top of that head there. So let's move these out of the way. I'm going to pull this thing out of the box here and let you see how everything's all set up. So first of all, as I've already showed you the picture, it comes with all these things. You get the XL comes with the 3/8 inch capacity, and that's the one I need. That's this the bigger rib nut here. So I wanted to make sure I got the XL. There's different versions on there, so get the one that is going to make the most sense for you. You know, you don't have to get everything the same as what I have. Just get what works for you. As we open it up here, you're going to see that you have the tool right here. You have several different adapters for whatever rib nut you're going to use. And up here in the top, you have a little tool that's used to set your mandrels and change them out pretty darn easily. So as you look at this thing, you can see it has the bit here that will go into your drill. And the way this thing works, if I loosen it, you're going to see the tip of that come out. So let me open this up and show you how all of this works. Okay, with my minimal exposure to this thing here, they give this little tool, and that's intended to be able to loosen this nut right here. You don't have to crank this thing on really tight, you just want to get it snug. So you can undo that, and that releases the mandrel. Now, over here, this is a locking ring, and you can unscrew this thing, but this is a locking ring to keep it in place. So when you screw this back in, tighten that up, and it's your locking ring to keep that in place. So as you undo this and pull this out, you're going to see that you have your stem here. This spring can come right off. Don't lose it. You're going to need it. And then the tool they give you has a smaller nut version there, and you can use that to loosen this. And then this screws right out just like that. So that's how you would change from tip to tip. Makes it real easy. You can put another one in, whatever you want, but in this case here, we're just going to put back what we had, and that's the 3/8 by 16. So I'm going to start by placing this here, and I'm going to tighten it just a little bit just to make it snug. I don't need to crank it. I'm going to place on the spring, and then this goes on next. And when this goes on here, you're going to have to push against that spring, turn it until it captures, tighten it, and then turn that locking collar to make sure that thing doesn't move. After that, I'm going to place this on here. And again, I'm just going to make it snug. No need to crank on that. So now one of the nice things about this tool here is when it works, when you look at a traditional homemade tool, the problem with it is that the threads turn, and as the threads are turning, it starts to collapse that rib nut. Here, the threads don't move at all. It just pulls it in, and that's very similar to the Blackmagic Brakes nutsert tool in the sense that if you have to turn threads, you can create damage or gull your threads. And that tool, along with this tool, the threads don't move, and it just collapses it without having to turn the threads. I'll show you how that works here in just a sec. So you're not going to believe how easy this tool is to use. You're going to take it, you're going to insert it into your drill just like that. Make sure it's in there tight. And then if you watch the tip here, let me get this out of the way. If you watch the tip there, if I put the drill in reverse, it goes out, and then you could thread on a new nutsert. And as you go to collapse it, you turn the drill the other way, and as you can see, that will pull in, and as you're watching that, you notice how the threads are not turning. All it is doing is collapsing it straight, just like I showed you in that video. So I'm going to show you an example right now. Again, I have this piece I made up right here. I'm going to throw it in the vise, and you're going to see how this thing works. So to use this, the very first thing we need to do is to get this extended. You can hear it going click, click, click. You know you're at the end there. Take your nutsert with the head facing the drill. You're going to screw that on until it stops. Then you're going to snug it up. So you need to reverse your drill now, put it in regular mode. Get it tight right there. That's it. This thing's ready to go now. When I go to use the drill to set this now, what you want to do is hold the tool here, your drill here, and pull the trigger. This is going to want to turn your hand, so you need to hold this pretty tight. In fact, they recommend wearing a rubber glove or something that has a grippy surface like this glove here. You can hold that pretty tight, and you're going to see how this thing works, but it is really slick. Now it's a matter of inserting the tool, hold on to this tool, and then squeeze the trigger slowly. You see how that collapsed right there, and now it's holding it in place. In the other video I watched, the guy was giving a review, and he didn't like for the fact that you just can't put the drill in reverse and walk this thing back out. Well, remember what I said, those threads don't turn as they're collapsing it. They stay there. So in this case here, you have to manually walk that out. So put your drill in reverse, just enough to release the tension on it, and then you're going to undo this by hand. And now, as you can see, you have a perfectly set rib nut that's not going anywhere. Okay, so doing this again, you want to have this stem out far enough that you can get this rib nut all the way on until it stops. You want as much thread engagement as you can get, as it shows right there. Now I'm going to put it in forward. I'm going to get it to where it stops right there. Now I can put it in there, pull the trigger until it stops. One thing to note, in their directions, they talk about setting the clutch on your drill. That way you don't over tighten it and destroy any of the parts like the mandrel or whatever. I've tried several settings. I cannot find a happy medium on a torque setting on this, and I think it's kind of a disclaimer on their part that they don't want you breaking their tools. So I leave it set all the way, but as it gets close, you can feel it. You can feel when it tightens up and the drill's going to get ready to start turning in your hand. That's when I stop. So your results may vary. Practice with it and see what you get. Here's another version right here. And that's it. Back it off a little bit, walk it back out. Okay, normal speed. Okay, now we need to change out the mandrel size because we want to use a different rib nut. First thing you do is take your little wrench, pop your nose piece off. Then you're going to unscrew this, and if the locking collar there is a little snug, you have to undo that first, but they kind of come off together. Take that smaller part of your wrench, pop that loose. Put your nose piece together with that, put it back in your box. Get your new parts out. So we're going to start by putting the mandrel in first. Small wrench, again, just snug. Then you're going to put this piece right on top. Get it started. As that gets close, then I'll tighten this up. Take your nose piece. Put that on. Get your big side of the wrench. Snug it up. I'm going to take a rib nut here, put it on there. I'm going to test this real quick. Collapses it just like that. Easy. All right, let's put new rib nuts on there, and we are going to show you how they work inside this piece. All right, here we go with the different size rib nut. That makes that so incredibly easy and straight every time. Let's take a look from this side. Well, all right, I'm going to tell you, I'm pretty darn impressed with this tool. It makes it super easy getting the drill there, just holding it like this. And the nice thing about that is you get those other ones with the two handles, you know, you may not be able to get in some tight spaces with that if you need to do that. This one right here, nice compact, it gets in there and it pulls straight back. I'm overall really impressed with this tool. Now, the tool is made in China, so you got to take that with a grain of salt. We'll see how long it lasts, but as of right now, it's working pretty darn good. And I know that Astro has a pretty good reputation, so I'm pretty confident this tool is going to last for a while. Proof is in the pudding, so when you watch these get set, you see how easy it is, and I really like the fact that the threads don't turn as it's pulling. They just pull straight back. That keeps threads from getting galled or stripped out. So overall, for this tool in my book, I'm going to give it an A for sure. The price on these, it's 2023 right now. They're running anywhere between 80 and 100 bucks, I think, for this specific tool. But if you find yourself using them a lot, it's going to be a great investment.